How's the royal family tonight? I know it's been a minute, my royal family. Pray that the sound is well. The sound is good. I need a number 17 in the house. Come on, give me that number. You know how I feel about that number. Going on a journey. I see the numbers. Can y'all hear me? I'm wondering. So is y'all good on the sound, my royal family? Ain't nobody gave me a 17 yet. I'm patient. Thank you, my king, Brother Bay. Thank you, my royal family. Well, it ain't low on my end. Gotta check your Bible. All right, break it down, brother. Like you always do. Put your back into it. You know how brother can do that thing. Come on with it. Come on with it. Just between us. By Norman Brown. Nice and soothing. And that good music. Yes. Good power. Breonna Taylor. So nobody can't hear the music, huh? Who is these new folks coming in? Think I'm a fall for the okey doke. Come on, brother, break it down. All right, all right, all right, all right, my royal family. I know it's been a minute, but y'all know I'm always around. Y'all know I'm always around.
So, we got folks in here saying we can't hear the music. Got folks in here saying the sound is janky. I'm not falling for that when I ain't never seen you before. I know the okey doke. People that I see in here that's always in here, they will let me know. So I'm not gonna go by, anybody that's new. So not gonna do that. Not gonna do that. Not gonna fall for that. Not gonna fall for that. It's great to reconnect back with the royal family. Um, Keep me in prayer, my royal family. I've been having some health issues, and I got to go get an X-ray tomorrow because I tore my knee. I know I got a new grandbaby, so it's just been a lot going on in my life. But y'all know I'm around. So my royal family. Before we get started, I'm going to thank you, my king, Reginald. We're going to start with prayer. I'm not trying to push or proselytize anything on anyone, just showing the Creator the utmost respect. So let's bow our head. In the name of Yahweh, I pray for the many oceans, lakes, and rivers and streams. I pray for every blade of grass, every grain of sand, every flower, every tree. And as I pray these prayers, I pray that my prayers are heartfelt, and I pray that my prayers are heard. I pray for the sick, and I pray for the suffering, and I pray for the overall royal family. Amen and Ashe. And again, how is the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, before we get started, um, um, anybody lose their wrench? Um, Let me know because there'll be some funny stuff popping off with that. And also, um, anybody want a wrench? I don't mind giving them out, but I can't keep all that in my head. You know, Stuff just be popping off. So, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna listen to the complete audio from the Department of Justice. Lisa had did a portion of it, and I'm a person. I do videos how I on this channel how I like to see them, and so I always want to know more than what's going on. I want to hear the full story. I want to hear the full lie and all of that, you know. And so that's what we're going to listen to, and it's under an hour. I might stop in between, but I just thought it was necessary that we hear it for ourselves. So let me do what I do. Okay. Yes. Violated in so many ways. So I'm going to present, share the screen. Okay. And before we get fully started, I'm gonna fire this thing up and let's see how the sound is on this. So let's see what's going on.
Good morning, everyone. On April 26, 2021, shortly after I became the Attorney General, I announced that the Justice Department had opened a civil investigation into the Louisville Jefferson County Metro Government and the Louisville Metro Police Department. Our investigation sought to determine whether those entities engage in a pattern or practice of violations of the Constitution or federal law. I'm here today to announce the findings of that investigation. I am also announcing that the Justice Department, Louisville Metro, and LMPD have agreed in principle to negotiate toward a consent decree. Here with me from the Justice Department are Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta and Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark, who is in charge of our Civil Rights Division. I also want to acknowledge Mayor Greenberg, Council President Winkler, and Interim Chief of Police Gwen Villarroel. Thank you for joining us today. In 2020, LMPD officers shot and killed Breonna Taylor in her own home in the middle of the night. The officers were executing a search warrant but found no evidence of any crime. In a separate criminal case, we have charged that officers involved in obtaining the warrant knew that the affidavit that supported the warrant contained false and misleading information. Ms. Taylor's death brought immeasurable pain both to her family and to this community. In April 2021, our Civil Rights Division opened the pattern or practice investigation that I've just referenced. Shortly after we opened the investigation, an LMPD leader told the department Breonna Taylor was a symptom of problems that we have had for years. The Justice Department's findings and the report that we are releasing today bear that out. The department has concluded that there is reasonable cause to believe that Louisville Metro and LMPD engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the First and Fourth Amendments of the Constitution. There is also reasonable cause to believe that they engage in conduct that violates Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Safe Streets Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Specifically, the report finds that LMPD uses excessive force, including unjustified neck restraints and the unreasonable use of police dogs and tasers, conducts searches based on invalid warrants, unlawfully executes warrants without knocking and announcing, unlawfully stops, searches, detains, and arrests people, unlawfully discriminates against Black people in enforcement activities, violates the rights of people engaged in protected speech, critical of policing, and, along with Louisville Metro, discriminates against people with behavioral health disabilities when responding to them in crisis. The Justice Department has also identified deficiencies in LMPD's response to and investigation of domestic violence and sexual assault. LMPD has relied heavily on pretextual traffic stops in Black neighborhoods. In these stops, officers use the pretense of making a stop for a minor traffic offense in order to investigate for other crimes. Some officers have demonstrated disrespect for the people they are sworn to protect. Some have videotaped themselves throwing drinks at pedestrians from their cars, insulted people with disabilities, and called Black people monkeys, animal, and boy. This conduct is unacceptable. It is heartbreaking. It erodes the community trust necessary for effective policing, and it is an affront to the vast majority of officers who put their lives on the line every day to serve Louisville with honor. And it is an affront to the people of Louisville who deserve better. As the report states, most Metro employees and LMPD officers are dedicated public servants who work hard to promote public safety. But Louisville Metro and LMPD have failed to ensure that.
I'm going to stop it right there for just a second. You know what gets me? They will report how disrespectful and brutal that they continue to be towards the royal family, but then they always got to add in that extra, that 99.9% of these cops, you know, they just coming to do their unquote job. That's bullshit. Because all of us got a story, or we know somebody that knows somebody. So stop insulting our intelligence. Just report it the way it is. Stop adding all that other stuff. That's a continuous insult. Now, before I fire it back up, some people are new to the True Royal family. Some of you already know the answer to this. There is something that the enemy and the enemy supporters are asking of us. Something that don't even require an unquote investigation. We already know about disrespecting black men and calling them boy and calling us monkeys and doing whatever they do. And we already know about even black cops that have even came into the community and continue to violate us. Like I said, every millisecond, somebody is out there doing something nefarious to the royal family. Every millisecond. Every millisecond. Think about that. But it's something that they are asking of us. And I'm gonna reveal it down the road. But as we continue on, it just gets me when they have to report how horrible they get down, and then they want to add in that other factor that overall the rest of them are out here just doing their thing. You know, it's just that 1 percentile or a fraction of and all of that. And that is a damn lie. But like I have been saying for the longest, my royal family, and we are seeing it, it is a cost messing with royalty. And the police are eroding and have been eroding the police force. But the foundation of it, we already know the foundation of these slave catchers and all of this type of stuff like that. But as we continue in my royal family,
all employees uphold the constitutional and statutory rights of the people of Louisville. Louisville Metro and LMPD have also failed to provide police officers and other employees with the support and resources that they need to do their jobs effectively and lawfully. Our investigation uncovered deficient training, substandard facilities and equipment, inadequate support for officer mental health and wellness. Police officers already have difficult jobs. These inadequacies have made those jobs even harder and less safe. Our report also describes unlawful law enforcement practices by LMPD patrol officers and by members of a specialized unit that was first called the Viper Unit. The unit was later rebranded as 9th Mobile Division and the Criminal Interdiction Division. Officers in this specialized unit frequently made pretextual traffic stops in Black neighborhoods. Federal and state courts have found that officers in the unit violated residents' Fourth Amendment rights. The report concludes that the unit's activities were part of an overall enforcement approach that resulted in significant and unlawful racial disparities. LMPD's conduct has undermined its public safety mission and strained its relationship with the community it's meant to protect and serve. In an important step toward reform, I am pleased to announce that the City of Louisville has signed an agreement in principle with the Department of Justice. This agreement commits the city and LMPD to work with the Justice Department, the community, police officers, and other stakeholders to address the problems that we have identified. And this agreement commits us to negotiate a legally binding consent decree with an independent monitor. Louisville Metro and LMPD have already instituted a number of changes through the settlement with the family of Breonna Taylor, as well as through other measures. The city enacted a law that prohibits LMPD from seeking no-knock warrants A limited pilot program has started sending behavioral health professionals to certain 911 calls, and the city has expanded community-based violence prevention services. LMPD has also announced plans to revamp its training, support for officers' health and wellness, and internal auditing. These efforts are commendable, and we credit Louisville Metro and LMPD for acknowledging that change is necessary. But more must be done. The Justice Department recommends 36 remedial measures that provide a starting framework for changes that are necessary to improve public safety, build community trust, and comply with the Constitution and federal law. To the officers of LMPD, the Justice Department is acutely aware of the integral role that law enforcement officers play in our society and the dangers you face to keep your community safe. So it is imperative that your police department sets you up for success. Your department needs to provide you with clear policies and consistent training that explain constitutional boundaries and responsibilities. You need equipment and facilities that help you meet those responsibilities. And you need supervisors and a chain of command.
Oh my goodness, I have to stop again. He's soft shoeing it. Y'all continue to insult our intelligence. Y'all not gonna do a damn thing. Not a damn thing. I keep saying, my royal family, there's something that they asking of us. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. What they are asking of us, if some people don't know, is what is an acceptable way to keep continuing to beat your black ass and to kill you? What is acceptable to us where y'all don't get all upset? All that damn training, equipment, and all of that, they done poured millions of dollars into these individual police departments. They will set up committees that look like you and I, and then you think you elite in the enemy, and then you become a supporter, and then you will be on your black pompous ass saying, well, next time Raheem do something, don't go for his neck, hit him across the back. They want to continue their behavior. It is their nature. You can't untrain this shit. And when they get opportunities, when they don't think Big Brother is watching them, or Big Brother is, and they don't give a damn, and they make up these scenarios. So you didn't investigate it yourself again, and then you're going to come up with bullshit. That's why it is necessary to hear what comes out of the enemy's mouth. So you have to realize, for them to stand before us, to even spew what they spew, that bothers them because they want to continue to do what they naturally do. They're a natural savage. That it is, and that is all. So always think about that. That's what they're asking of us. You keep your hands off of our royal bodies. You got to understand the space and time we are in. And I keep saying it's a cost. You can't get around Yahweh whatsoever. I said we in the age of exposure, and all of it's being exposed. Even the ones that look like you and I that are not Hebrew, confusion of face, they being exposed too. So them ones that did what they did to our brother, those are not Hebrews, but that needs to be exposed too. And that does not bring us down. I keep saying we didn't win this war, but we will continue to see the enemy win battles, but we cannot react to the battles like they have won the war. As we continue on, my royal family.
And that enables you to achieve the highest standards of your profession. To the people of Louisville, you have shown meaningful engagement on issues of reform. During the investigation, the department met with many community members, including people who had encounters with the police, religious leaders, advocates, criminal defense attorneys, prosecutors, judges, and service providers. I want to thank you for sharing your experiences with us. We could not have completed this investigation without your contributions. And I ask that you continue to engage with these issues in the months ahead. Your involvement is critical to our success. Together, we can make true progress and ensure the durability of reforms. Together, we can ensure that constitutional policing also results in safer communities. Finally, to the career staff of the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Kentucky who conducted this investigation, thank you for your extraordinary hard work, which will make Louisville a better place and a safer place for all of its residents. As I mentioned when I announced the opening of this investigation, the Justice Department is charged with ensuring that the constitutional and federal statutory rights of the people are protected. Congress authorized the department to conduct pattern or practice investigations to help it fulfill this responsibility. But those investigations and the recommendations that ensue do not only protect individuals' civil rights, they also assist police departments in developing measures to increase transparency and accountability. Those qualities are necessary to building trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve, and community trust is essential to making both communities and policing safer. The Justice Department looks forward to working with Louisville Metro and
Okay. Transparency. Transparency. I'm sick of that word. Being held accountable for what? And they're only making an agreement with one community. Again, what is an acceptable way to keep doing what we are doing and that we are in agreement with it? Remember what I was saying long ago? You can't satisfy royalty. So we don't accept none of this. None of this. You know, you're wasting our time with this. See, I know the answer to what will stop all of this. The total elimination to our truest enemy. The total elimination. Do you fully understand me? Now, before I get started, some of y'all, I'm going to take your wrenches away, and because I did cap first, and you're not going to be a standard moderator. You're going to be a moderator that have more latitude. And Cap was the first one where I took his wrench and then I resend it back to him. So he has more latitude to, give you the pimp hand. And I'm going to be doing that throughout this live stream. I may not be able to get everyone, but the ones that I see that's been here for the longest, I'm going to change you from a managing moderator opposed to a standard. If I make you a new moderator, I got to just see how you be for a minute and then I'll switch it over. So just to let y'all know what's going on as we continue on.
LMPD to achieve these ends. I'm now pleased to turn the podium over to Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta.
Thank you, Attorney General Garland. I want to thank Mayor Greenberg, Council President Winkler, Interim Chief of Police Jacqueline Gwen Villarreal, Louisville Metro, and LMPD for their cooperation with the Justice Department's investigation. I also want to thank the outstanding team led by the Civil Rights Division for their tireless efforts on this matter. And I want to especially thank the many, many community members who shared their experiences with our team during the investigation. As the Attorney General announced, our investigation has revealed a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the United States Constitution and federal law. LMPD's ability to serve and protect the people of Louisville has been compromised, and the findings are deeply troubling and sobering. But we are committed to working with Louisville on a path forward to constitutional policing and stronger police community trust. And that is why I am pleased that the Justice Department and Louisville have entered into an agreement in principle. In that agreement, we commit to negotiating a court-enforceable consent decree to ensure sustainable, constitutional, and effective public safety and emergency response services in Louisville. By entering into this agreement, the city and police department have taken a critical step forward and shown their commitment to moving expeditiously to implement reforms aimed at remedying the problems that we have identified in the investigation. And I want to commend them for taking this step. I also want to acknowledge that Louisville did not wait for us to issue findings to start instituting change. In the wake of Breonna Taylor's tragic and terrible death, the city made changes through its settlement with her family in addition to other measures. The agreement in principle only represents a framework, and in the coming months, we will use the framework to negotiate a comprehensive consent decree with the city that will be filed in federal court. And we will soon be meeting with and reaching out to community members and law enforcement to hear your ideas about the kind of police department and policing you want to see in your community. In negotiating and developing a consent decree, we will lean on the lessons we have learned from consent decrees.
Did you hear what she just said? What kind of policing do we want in our community? What kind of policing did we want in our community? And then she blase and say, oh, we basically broke off the taxpayers' money, our money, to pay Breonna Taylor's family and other measures. What the hell is the other measures? You see how slight of tongue? Pay attention to language. This little dusty hoe don't give a damn about us. It's only one community that they are speaking of. So they're going to ask us how we want our communities to be policed. I know what I be talking about on this stuff. They want to keep doing what they are doing. Leave us alone. But it ain't in your nature. Because you have utter hate for Yahweh. See, you got to remember, my royal family, they see something in you. They see the kingdom in you. They see the divine hand in you. And they fear that. They see the everlasting life in you. And they fear that. Because their master plan did not work. Their master plan, as I speak, we should not even be existing. We done made our 400 years. Our New Year's is coming up the next following Friday, March 17th. 17 means overcoming the enemy in a complete victory. They're going to ask us how we want our communities policed. That's like asking a black man, how do you want to run your household? He's the head of his house. You don't ask no black man that. You don't even ask no black woman that. How you going, because she running the house too. But I believe in the order of things, because that's how Yahweh set it up like that. As we can continue on.
In other cities across the country. We have learned, and I have seen firsthand, that consent decrees can lead to lasting and real change. Across the country, the Justice Department has worked collaboratively with not only city and police officials, but also members of the public who are invested in finding better ways for their cities to meet public safety challenges. Our approach has led to significant improvements. In Seattle, for example, the Independent Monitor reported a 60% decrease in the use of serious force since 2014. In Albuquerque, the Independent Monitor recently reported serious uses of force dropped by a third from previous years. And in Baltimore, the Independent Monitor recently found that officers are using force less often. We will apply these lessons in Louisville, and the consent decree we negotiate and implement here will address the specific context of the Louisville Metro government and LMPD and this community's needs. The agreement in principle commits us to including mechanisms in the consent decree that will facilitate ongoing participation of community members as well as police officers in the implementation of reform. We need this entire community to help us craft solutions that will result in real and lasting change in Louisville. The agreement in principle also commits us to selecting a third-party independent monitor who will assist the court and parties in determining whether a consent decree is being implemented. In 2021, I reviewed the department's use of monitors in these contexts and recommended, and the Attorney General agreed to, actions that ensure that policing consent decrees minimize costs, enhance transparency, involve voices from the community, and move a community as efficiently as possible to lasting change that we all desire and that the people of Louisville deserve. As we move forward, we know that we can achieve constitutional policing only by using every available tool. In that vein, just this morning, the Justice Department's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services announced that it will produce a guide for police chiefs and mayors across the country to help them assess the appropriateness of the use of specialized units, like the unit formerly known as the Viper Unit here in Louisville, as well as how to ensure necessary management, oversight, and accountability of such units. The Justice Department also supports co-responder and community responder models that pair law enforcement and behavioral health professionals to attend to people experiencing a crisis, which will free up law enforcement officers to address more serious violent offenses and save lives. These resources will be available to LMPD as they are to police agencies across the nation. To the men and women of the LMPD, we recognize the many challenges faced by police officers in Louisville and in communities across the country. And we know that police officers every day risk their lives in the line of duty. And we know also that you need the public's trust to do your jobs effectively and to keep communities safe. To the people of Louisville, whether here or around the country, police reform won't happen overnight or by chance. It will take time, along with focused effort and sustained commitment. In communities across America, even in communities where that trust has been broken.
Okay, so basically, they want to babysit the pigs because they know this BS that they talking about is offending the pigs, because they're basically, how they're interpreting it is, I can't act upon my true nature. And then she proceeds to say, well, we can't change this overnight. It will never change. I'm in reality. I don't care how much money you spend. I don't care how much training you do. It is in their nature. And you see how she speaks? Dry, cold, and all of that, because they don't care. They don't like that they have to come before the royal family and even speak, even though they're not going to do nothing. As we continue on.
Broken, we have seen transformative reform rebuild relationships, advance public safety, and bring us closer to the nation's promise of justice and equality under the law. And in the months ahead, because of the proactive leadership in the city, because of the energy and vibrancy of this community, and because of the police department's commitment for reform, together we can shape the same progress right here in Louisville. Together we can build a stronger Louisville, a Louisville that protects the safety, rights, and dignity of all. I will now turn things over to Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark, who will discuss the findings of our investigation in greater detail.
Good morning. 3 years ago, in the wake of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd's tragic and brutal deaths, the nation once again turned its eye to the state of policing.
Okay, let's stop for a minute. Kristen Clark, I want you to keep this on your frontal lobe about this dusty hoe I'm not showing nobody respect. She was the one that literally overstepped Ahmaud Arbery's family and set up a deal behind their backs to basically make them pigs, the ones that, that killed Ahmaud Arbery, time a little bit more of a cushion. This is one of the enemy's supporters. Remember her. Remember her. She's useless. See, I don't be forgetting this type of stuff. As we continue on.
In America, people across the country came together to demand action from their leaders, accountability from the police departments that protect and serve them, and reforms that can ensure public safety while restoring public trust. At the heart of the many demonstrations that unfolded in this city and across the country was a call for constitutional policing and respect for people's civil rights. People in Louisville deserve constitutional policing. They deserve policing that is fair and non-discriminatory. Our investigation found that the police department and city government failed to adequately protect and serve the people of Louisville, breached the public's trust, and discriminated against Black people through unjustified stops, searches, and arrests. The police used excessive force, subjecting people to unlawful strikes, tasings, and canine bites. The police sought search warrants without justification and carried out no-knock warrants unlawfully, evading the Constitution, defying federal law, and putting ordinary citizens in harm's way. Today marks a new day and a new chapter for the people of Louisville. For the last 2 years, the Justice Department has led an exhaustive investigation in Louisville to determine whether Louisville Metro government and the Louisville Police Department engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that violated the Constitution or federal law. We left no stone unturned, and we found that LMPD routinely seeks search warrants for residences without establishing legal justification for invading someone's home. Officers regularly seek warrants that are overly broad, sweeping in people who have at most a remote connection to the investigation, who have committed no crime, harbor no evidence, and have a constitutional right to not be subject to unreasonable search and seizure. Officers also violated the law when they act on these warrants by unjustifiably barging into people's homes without knocking and announcing their presence. And they often serve these warrants at night. These tactics are dangerous. Officers can be misidentified as intruders, and they may misinterpret shock and surprise as a threat. All of this puts the public at risk and officers too. Officers also routinely conduct stops, searches, and arrests without the required constitutional justification. These tools are essential to enhance public safety, but when used without restraint, they turn into weapons of oppression, submission, and fear. We found that LMPD officers use excessive and dangerous tactics such as neck restraints, canines, and tasers, even against people who pose no imminent threat to the officer or others. We also found that officers misdirect their resources and violate fundamental principles of equal justice by selectively targeting and disproportionately subjecting Black residents to unlawful policing. LMPD disproportionately stops and cites Black drivers for minor traffic offenses, In fact, Black drivers were nearly twice as likely as white drivers to be cited for having one headlight out. Black drivers were nearly 4 times as likely as white drivers to be cited for improperly tinted windows. And Black drivers were nearly 5 times as likely as white drivers to be cited for improper tags. LMPD also disproportionately searches Black drivers who are stopped and cited. Even when comparing traffic stops where Black and white drivers were engaged in similar behavior before the stop, Black drivers were almost 50% more likely to be searched than whites. LMPD charges Black people at higher rates than white people for the same misdemeanor offenses. For example, LMPD charges Black people for loitering at more than 4 times the rate of white people, for disorderly conduct at 2.5 times the rate of white people, and for littering at 3 times the rate of white people. This pattern of racial discrimination fuels distrust and impedes the community's confidence in the LMPD and their law enforcement operations. LMPD's improper activity extends beyond use of force, street enforcement, and search warrants. We also found that LMPD often responds aggressively to people criticizing the police, both in routine day-to-day police encounters and during lawful demonstrations, and both before and after the racial justice protests that occurred in 2020. We saw unnecessarily aggressive behavior against people experiencing behavioral health crises. One person, a Black man with an apparent behavioral health disability, had more than 25 encounters with LMPD in less than 2 years. And in some of these interactions, LMPD officers needlessly escalated the situation and used unreasonable force. At times, they even mocked him. The man ultimately died in a Louisville Metro detention center after he had once again been arrested by LMPD. Such unnecessary escalation of encounters that could have and should have remained nonviolent was far too common. These findings are not based on any one incident or event. They turn on evidence showing long-standing dysfunction at LMPD. The pattern or practice of unlawful conduct compromises LMPD's ability to serve and protect safely, constitutionally, and effectively. Instead, LMPD has practiced an extreme, misdirected, and counterproductive style of policing. And as Attorney General Garland noted, these findings give us reasonable cause to believe that Louisville Metro and LMPD engage in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates both the Constitution and federal law. Together, our findings have at their core a lack of effective management, training, and accountability. The Louisville Police Department can do better and will do better at respecting the civil rights of this community and better at working with the community to fight crime. Our investigation here was guided by a few core principles. First, policing in America, and particularly here in Louisville, is complex. We know that interactions with members of the public don't happen in a vacuum. Dynamics like racial segregation, poverty, and violence all affect how officers do their job. Second, being a police officer is hard and dangerous work. Officers are often faced with complex, fast-paced situations which at times threaten their lives and the lives of others. And third, members of the public may see the police in different ways. Some see the police as pillars of the social order who get us through the worst days of their lives. Others view the police with skepticism and worry that any encounter poses the risk of being unfairly targeted and victimized. With all of these realities in mind, again, our efforts were exhaustive. We talked to hundreds of people across the city. We rode with officers in their cars on patrol. We spoke with city and union officials, judges and attorneys, advocacy groups, religious leaders, and community members from different walks of life. And along with our experts, we reviewed thousands of documents regarding LMPD's enforcement activities, and we watched thousands of hours of body-worn camera footage. We know sustainable police reform requires going beyond mere surface level changes. It requires digging deep into the root causes of systemic problems. It requires creative ideas from many sources that can help LMPD and Louisville Metro achieve their public safety mission in line with the Constitution, federal law, and the community's values. It also requires an optimism that change is possible and a hard-nosed realism about the solutions that can achieve that change. So to the people of Louisville, I say, let your voice be a part of the change. Louisville residents have a rich history of community organizing and demanding better from your leaders. And we want your activism and engagement to energize and advance this reform process. In the road ahead, as we focus on creating solutions that will drive real, lasting change in the city, the Justice Department will be reaching out to community members and law enforcement to hear about the kind of police department that people want for their city. We are relying on the diverse communities of this vibrant city to stay engaged, to push us, to advocate, and to work with us to create a safer, more just Louisville. As I close, I want to extend my gratitude to Mayor Greenberg, Council President Winkler, and Interim Chief of Police Jacqueline Gwynn VRL for joining us today. In addition, I want to recognize former Mayor Greg Fisher and former Chief of Police Erica Shields for their cooperation and leadership throughout our investigation. And I also want to extend gratitude to the hundreds of people across Louisville who worked with us throughout this investigation. Thanks to the police officers, the civil rights advocates, leaders, and many others for exercising your voice in this process. Law enforcement works when the community is engaged, and we at the Justice Department thank you all. Finally, as we prepare to embark on a path towards reform, we want the citizens of Louisville to hear us loudly and clearly that we will stand with you every step of the way. I'd now like to invite Mayor Greenberg to the podium.
Thank you. Our city has been through a lot these past few years, and hearing the details of this report brings back a lot of painful memories, especially from 2020. Though for too many in our community, the memories this brings back are much older than that. Our city has wounds that have not yet healed. And that's why this report, this moment, are so important and so necessary. We have to understand and come to terms with where we've been so we can get to where we want to be. Chief Jacqueline Gwynn Villarroel and I were both sworn in 2 months ago. We took our oaths of office on January 2nd, knowing this investigation was reaching its conclusion, but not knowing what these findings would be. We both understood from the beginning that we would inherit and embrace this opportunity to reform and improve LMPD. The work is essential to reducing violent crime and strengthening public safety, which is our top responsibility at city government. And it's equally as important to acknowledge the infuriating examples of abuse cited in this report, particularly cases against Black and brown members of our community and women and children, abuses by the same people who were supposed to protect them. The chief and I and our entire teams will do everything possible and everything necessary to correct the mistakes of the past and heal the wounds they've left in our community. As the Department of Justice has noted, this work has begun, but we have a lot more to do. What we just heard from the Attorney General, from the Associate Attorney General, from the Assistant Attorney General, the descriptions of police misconduct and people looking the other way, all of that is unacceptable. It's inexcusable. And it's a betrayal of the public's trust. And it's a betrayal of the integrity and professionalism that the overwhelming majority of our officers bring to their job every day and every night. I want to address some of the reactions that I expect different people in our city will have to this report and some of the details of the findings. I know some people are surprised and horrified to hear stories about certain officers operating in ways that are so counter to our values as a community. All of this is really hard to hear and hard to accept. It's infuriating. I understand that. I also know there are people who are not surprised to hear the findings in this report because they see this report as confirmation of complaints they've made about their own interactions with law enforcement, sometimes for years. Many of those spoke out and felt dismissed or devalued. And now, the United States Department of Justice is essentially saying, yes, in many cases, you were right and you deserved better. That's a powerful thing. I understand that too. And I know there are people who will look at this report and they'll be eager to find some way to minimize it or dismiss it. They'll say it's all politics, or that you could find examples like this in any city. No, this is not about politics or other places. This is about Louisville. This is about our city, our neighbors, and how we serve them. We will not make excuses. We will make changes. We will make progress, continued progress towards improvement and reform, towards making sure that LMPD delivers services that respect the Constitution, increase trust, and promote public safety and officer safety. The United States Department of Justice is demanding that we take action. The people of Louisville are demanding that we take action. Chief Gwynn Billerowell and I are taking action to reform and improve how our police department operates. Over the past few days, the Department of Justice and my office have reached an agreement in principle that will help us guide us as we implement next steps. We will continue to provide updates as we go through this process. There'll be many more announcements to come, and community input will absolutely be a critical part of the ongoing part of police reform. We will reform how we recruit, train, equip, support, supervise, and deploy the more than 1,000 public servants whose job it is to serve as guardians of the public safety every day and every night. I talk to and work with LMPD officers every day. And as the Department of Justice has said, the vast majority of our officers are good and honorable people who are doing this work because they want to serve. They want to help, and they're willing to put their lives on the line. They frequently go into dangerous, traumatizing, and heartbreaking situations to keep us safe.
I'm going to stop it right there for just a second. See, here we go again, talking about the vast majority of the pigs are upstanding citizens and they're just trying to, do their job and get home. Okay. If it's only that fraction of that 1% of the police force throughout America doing that, would you think that since it's just a fraction of, you could remove that quickly? The math is easy. If it's such a small, minute, you could remove it. You will see it stand out. You know, it's like having rotten ass fruit. You got a bowl of rotten fruit, and there's 1 or 2 pieces in there that's affecting the other pieces of fruit. So you remove it. But then when all the fruit is bad, you can't get it to get well. It will continue to rot. Now, I have a construction background, and in my construction background, when you lay a foundation, when you don't lay that foundation properly, it will give. Again, we know how all of this started. So stop insulting our intelligence again. Why do you have to keep adding that the overall police force is good indeed? But then you say it's something wrong with the training and all of that. No, they rotten to the core. And when you're rotten, you're rotten. It is what it is. And again, if you ask me, well, True Royal, what you got a solution? Yes, the total elimination. The total. When it's bad, it's bad. We don't need to select. It's just, it boggles my psyche. So you want to ask my folks, line them up, and you pick which massa you want to whoop on your ass daily. And that will be acceptable to us. As we continue on.
None of that excuses anything in the Department of Justice report, but it is something we need to understand as we carry out police reform, because it's our job to provide every officer with the support, training, structure, leadership, resources, and accountability they need so they can do their job and do it right. We need our officers to prevent and solve crimes while treating people with dignity and respect, because everyone from every community and every background deserves that. And as we just heard, too many people who deserved respect and dignity didn't get it from officers of the law sworn to protect them. Instead, they received contempt and abuse. To those people who've been harmed, on behalf of our city government, I'm sorry. You deserved better. We can and will do better. We are committed to putting reforms in place that will raise the department's standards and ensure constitutional and effective policing that reduce crime and improve public safety. We all understand this will take time and sustained effort. It will also take conversation and collaboration with our officers and staff, with their representatives and union, and with the individuals, businesses, and communities throughout the city that we all serve. This report paints a painful picture of LMPD's past, but it helps point us in the right direction for our future and to the next phase in the process of police reform in Louisville. That phase begins now. Our goal is to make LMPD the most trusted, trained, and transparent police department in America. We have a lot of hard work ahead. It's good and important work, and we will make our city safer, stronger, and healthier. So let's get to work. And now ask Chief Gwen Villaroel to share a few remarks. Chief?
Good morning. This is an extremely challenging and pivotal point for our city, our department, and for our officers. Now that the DOJ has concluded their investigation and presented their findings, we will continue our efforts in improving public safety in this beautiful city called Louisville and making LMPD the premier police department in the country. The men and women of LMPD are LMPD's greatest resource. Our officers are committed to upholding the Constitution with honor and distinction while carrying out their important duties to ensure public safety. We will not falter in this effort. We are committed to ensuring police practices not only reflect constitutional principles, but the values of the communities served by LMPD. We recognize that the process of reform is complex and will require sustained effort. Prior to and during this investigation, LMPD took significant and important action to support officers and to find solutions to ensure constitutional policing and build trust within this community. Improvement will not occur, as we've heard before, overnight, and will require clear goals and objectives. To this end, we are committed to work collaboratively and earnestly with all necessary parties. I want to rest on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I think it's very fitting today. I will have a choice whether I'm able to stand. An ultimate measure of a man is not when he stands in the moments of comfort or convenience, but when he stands at times of challenge and controversy. So I am asking the LMPD and this community that we too together, that we stand as we navigate this process and as we move forward for all of us to make change.
Thank you very much. We will now take some questions from the media. I'll be calling on various media outlets, and if you could please say to whom your question is specifically directed. First, the Associated Press.
You mentioned early on in your address that a person affiliated with the police department had said this is a long time coming. Can you elaborate on that? And we hear a lot about what happened, but I think people wonder why. Is it for leadership? Is it training? Can you elaborate on how this kind of, why it's happening?
So I'll say a few things and then I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Attorney General. This is laid out pretty deeply in a pretty long report. The things that we found have been listed and we've ticked them off already. They've ranged everything from improper use of force and of lethal force to search warrants not based on probable cause, to disparate policing practices in different parts of the city, to pretextual searches and stops in parts of the city. These are the things I think that the leader of the LMPD who was quoted was referring to.
I'll also add that in some instances, there were no policies to prevent the misconduct that we saw. In some instances, we saw policies, but no training. In other instances, we found no accountability. I'll also underscore that our investigation was not focused on isolated incidents. What we uncovered was a pattern and practices that run afoul of the Constitution and federal law, and the consent decree that we will now negotiate with the city will help put the police department and the city on a needed path to reform. Policies, training, accountability, appropriate systems to prevent the kind of problems that we identified will all be part and parcel of that consent decree.
Thank you. Representative from the Courier-Journal.
This is for General Garland. I believe one of the remedies in the report is some kind of review board that will monitor the police. Could you elaborate on whether that should be a civilian review board or what you and your associate or assistant have in mind?
So there's two different things going on here. Before we completed this investigation, the city already put into effect an inspector general and an enhanced civilian review board. And in our remedy, it's more support for those operations. It may be what you're referring to as the monitor, which is a relatively common factor in these consent agreements. We expect that person will be an expert in this field. We hope to reach an agreement with the city and the police department as to who that will be. In the end, that determination will be made by the judge in charge of the consent decree, and that monitor will ensure that the elements of the consent decree are carried forward.
Thank you. WFPL Radio.
My question is for the Attorney General. Can you explain how having better police facilities would have mitigated discriminatory policing and civil rights violations in the DOJ?
Oh, having better. Yeah, so I mean, the facilities are part of, one long list of the kind of resources that police officers need. I think the Assistant Attorney General was just referring to this: better training, better understanding of what the boundaries of constitutional policing are, better support for officers' health and wellness, all of the better supervision. All of this goes into the way in which officers are then able to carry out their jobs and ensure that they follow the Constitution, that they protect the community, and that they're able to protect themselves.
Thank you. WHAS TV.
Mayor, I'm not sure if this is to you, the chief, or the attorney general on what you got sorted out, but in the findings of the investigation here that seem to implicate a number of officers doing a number of different things that were against protocols and procedures for the law, will those officers be investigated in any way, reprimanded, and if so, by what agency?
I'll start, and then whoever else wants to take that can. We have just received the details of the findings late yesterday. Two members of our administration have read the report in confidence, and so we will be, the chief and myself and our teams will be reviewing the details of the findings that we were made aware of. And some of these incidents have already been reported and are known and have gone through an investigation process. Others may not have, and we will be looking at each one of those incidents as we review the findings report and the incidents they cite in further detail.
The statutes used by the Justice Department here, 34 USC 12601, the Safe Streets Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act give us civil authority to identify whether or not there were pattern or practices of misconduct here. There is this investigation, excuse me, did not involve a criminal inquiry to any individual officers. We want to underscore that this investigation did not focus on isolated incidents. It was focused on uncovering systems that were broken and patterns of misconduct.
So basically what she's saying is they not going to do a damn thing. They know who the problem childs continue to be on the force, and they're not going to do absolutely nothing. See how the enemy supporter stands in real quickly and know what to say, because he got nervous. He didn't know how to answer the question. See, all they doing is giving them sort of like a yellow light opposed to a red light, slow your roll, and whooping black folks' asses, and try to do things somewhat right. But they already saying this is not gonna happen overnight. Ain't a damn thing gonna happen. Y'all just using a bunch of word salad at the end of the day. as we continue on my royal family. We almost done with this.
Thank you. WLKY TV.
I'm not sure who to address this to. Mr. Garland said that Louisville already made some commendable changes, but said that more needs to be done. Out of the 36 recommendations, do we know how much of that we've achieved so far and how much is left? Or does that require an additional study or evaluation?
Yeah, the 36 are new additional remedies that are required, but some of them build on some of the quite commendable changes that have already been made.
WDRB TV.
This is for anyone from DOJ. A lot of what you talked about today predates Breonna Taylor. How much responsibility does former police chief Steve Conrad bear here? And did he cooperate and talk to you guys during this investigation?
The Justice Department wants to recognize the current mayor and the current chief and the former mayor and the former chief for their cooperation at every stage of our investigation. What you see here now are us standing with the current leadership of this great city, and we are all committed to working together to put this police department on a path to instituting reforms that are long overdue. Again, we are focused on no particular individual. This is a civil investigation that is focused on improving and strengthening the LMPD.
Thank you. Wave 3 TV. I'm sorry.
This question is for you. Given the fact that you just took over, what issues did you see with the previous administration, and where are you deviating from that going forward?
Well, I think as you just heard, Chief Gwen Billerowell and I are focused on the future. This investigation was for a period that led up to the fall of late in 2021. We are aware of some of the reforms that had begun to start with LMPD, but we are now been working collaboratively with the Department of Justice on ways that we can move forward, on ways that we can continue to improve policing in Louisville so that everyone is treated with the fairness, with the equity, with the justice that they deserve. And so that is what we will be working with the Department of Justice with over the coming months and, if necessary, years ahead until we get it right, until we can have a police department that everyone up here today, that all of us in the community are looking for. We had an option when I first took office and understood a little bit about what the Department of Justice was doing. And then in the more recent days, when we were notified that the Department of Justice had completed their report as to how our city government would react. Even before reading the report, when we heard about what the findings were and were confidentially briefed on that, we immediately decided we wanted to collaborate. We wanted to cooperate. We want to work with the Department of Justice to reform and improve LMPD. And that's what Chief Gwen Billerowell and I are committed to, is working with the Department of Justice. One final note before we conclude, there will be a virtual community meeting tonight that the Department of Justice is hosting. It'll be at 7 p.m. tonight. And again, that's a virtual community meeting. I believe the details about how to sign on to that meeting were included in the...
Okay, that is the conclusion of that, my royal family. Let me take this all the way down. So, my royal family, I'm glad that everybody gave their input. Some people noticed that there was some changes. I did as many moderators that I could, opposed to being a standard moderator. Now you're a managing moderator, so that gives you more latitude to do whatever you got to do. It'll be a process. There's others I'll get along the way. So, what was the mayor's purpose of speaking? Getting more funding. That's what he's excited about. Looked like he was high as a kite. And we seen homegirl step in when they got nervous and didn't know how to answer the question. So what was the purpose of doing an investigation? They have to show that they're doing something with the money, and that was that. But there was no ain't nothing gonna happen at all. Like I keep saying, they're asking something of us. And they didn't sign these little agreements, and they didn't rode in police cars and all this stuff, and they're gonna ask us what's acceptable way that they can continue to keep doing what they're doing to us, and that we go along with it. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work whatsoever. It is awful what they did to Breonna Taylor, our queen, and we will continue to see this as long as the enemy has existed. We haven't got an ounce of peace. And then we got folks that I call them the enemy supporters, want to hold on to this system, because they want to appease the enemy, because they think that they are the ultimate power. And if you know anything about history, when you look at empires, this is the shortest empire that has ever existed on the planet, and we're watching it erode, and it is eroding within. They are causing their own ultimate demise, because at the end of the day, this is all about reclaiming our throne, reclaiming it. And they eating their own, they telling on each other, because in this case alone, because y'all seen the avatar that I had set up and everything before this started, the enemy's woman is singing like a canary. Remember, I had told y'all that vision that I had? I think that vision been like 5 years ago, where the vision that I had, where literally Yahweh was putting the words within me, and he said that the white woman would be the first to get my wrath, but that does not exclude her man, because he upheld her shit. You start looking at these big whistleblowing cases, and it is the enemy's woman telling on her man at the end of the day in this war. That's why you see us. That's why I said we've been won this war, but it's certain things that have to play out on a spiritual level and all these type of things. So like I said, I was very interested in seeing the whole thing. I didn't want a portion of this. I wanted to get the whole picture of it. And it literally, in one aspect, was a waste of our time in one sense. And it just reconfirmed what we already know at the end of the day. That is it. That is all, my royal family. So y'all keep me in prayer. I feel good enough to get back on my grind. I feel like I have neglected the royal family because I've been missing in action. And like I said, I'm dealing with some health things, but they will be resolved in due time. And I appreciate the continuous donations, even though I haven't been around. I just appreciate y'all patience with me and everything, and y'all see me, or y'all gonna see me around. I'm still, one thing that I will be doing on our New Year's Day, which is March 17th. I'm gonna be doing a live. I'm gonna try to get Big Mike back on here and KD, so we can do something in honor of our New Year's Day. And I will show my face. I rarely show my face, but every once in a while I'll show my face. And we'll just, do what we did last year. We'll celebrate our new year and have a family discussion and just kick it with each other and do what we do and everything. So my royal family, one last thing here. Royalty, yeah. Royalty, yeah. All right, my royal family. It was good to touch bases with the royal family, and we won't lose sight. We won't lose sight, but I'm going to keep emphasizing and saying the same thing. There is a cost, and we're seeing it happen before our eyes. There is a problem within this system, and there is side effects. There's side effects, and the enemy cannot figure out how they can keep doing what they are doing and paying the cost. But they want to have the ultimate power over the royal family. It has already been foretold what is going to happen, and we have to continue to demonstrate total faith. So, my royal family, do what you do best. Do what you do best. And what is that? What would I say, my royal family? I ain't been on here. Oh, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.